Well, Series 11 is now fully over. We've had the special and everything. Let's rank them.
I'm the Doctor. Sorting out fair play throughout the universe. Now please, get off this planet while you still have a choice.
Taking out the aliens!
Delivery for the Doctor.
Madam, I have come to your rescue.
I will kill him if I can.
We're gonna need some help.
UK Security Helpline, this is Polly. How can I help?
I'm sorry, what?
Hi, I'm Phil, welcome to my channel, and today I'm going to be ranking all episodes from Series 11 of Doctor Who, from worst to best, including the New Year's Day special, because I'm including that. I mean, it felt like the season finale, so I'm including it. Sue me. Now, few disclaimers before we start. Obviously, I gave every episode in my weekly reviews a score out of 10 as we were going along. That was very much my in-the-moment reaction, having literally immediately just seen the episode, and I always said they were subject to change. So even if this ranking does not match, you look back and you go, hold on a minute, but you gave that a higher score than that when you ranked them originally. You know, hindsight's a wonderful thing, and opinions do change. So that's why there may be some inconsistencies with the scoring I gave, you know, originally when it came to it. So that's just my little disclaimer. Oh yeah, and the other disclaimer is the obvious one. This is just my personal opinion. I may put your favourite episode last. I may put the episode you hated with a passion first. Doesn't really matter. It's all just our own opinions, just which episodes we like. We all like different episodes for different reasons, and that is fine. But here's mine anyway. Let's get started. Bottom place, very worst episode, number 11. Arachnids in the UK.
A giant spider just smashed through my bathtub and took out my bodyguard, Kevin.
This is really the only episode that I think is, for me, a bad episode. There are, you know, criticisms of all the episodes, in most of the episodes in some ways or another, but this one is just, the ending is unforgivable. I mean, there just isn't one. It just ends suddenly, and out of nowhere, it's like it's missing an extra 15 minutes of an episode. And that's just not forgivable. It was, and even throughout the rest of the episode, it was only okay. So the fact that it had a terrible ending just meant that the okayness of the rest of the episode, the whole lot just plummets down to a bad episode. I thought the stuff, I don't know why they made the American guy have to be like Trump. Not that I have anything against political commentary or anything. It just seemed really weird because he was running against Trump, and yet he shared so many of the characteristics of Trump. It just seemed like a bit of a weird way to tackle that. So although I thought Chris North did a good job, and he was very admirable, this episode, and the scientist character I thought wasn't very good. Didn't really rate her acting, or maybe it was the dialogue, I don't know. Just generally, there was too much exposition. That's a theme of Chris Chibnall's episodes. And yeah, this one really didn't do anything for me. At number 10, we got the Tsuranga Conundrum.
In honor of you both, I wanted to call him Avocado.
This, for most people, I think, is actually at their bottom place. I've seen a few rankings so far, and this one tends to be at the bottom, and with Arachnids as slightly better than it. But in my opinion, this is better than Arachnids. I didn't mind the Bating. I thought the Bating was fine. That didn't bother me at all. I didn't mind it being a cute little creature. I thought it was rendered in CGI amazingly. And I didn't mind the fact that it was just this little thing that looked kind of cute, because I think that can work. What I think the episode didn't do, which it should have done, is capitalized on that a bit more. They should have really played up that fact that it was really cute, because the characters themselves didn't seem to react to that. They didn't have the reaction that the audience did of like, oh, that's not going to hurt us, it's tiny. They just sort of treated it the same way as it would have been if it was a big massive creature. So that seemed like a missed opportunity. I think they should have done something a bit more, and there could have been a great scene in there where because of its cuteness, somebody, maybe one of the auxiliary characters, the guest characters, underestimates it, goes up to it thinking it's going to be all cute, and then or something. I don't know. It just felt like the cuteness of it, which I didn't mind, wasn't utilised in the best way, which is why this episode is down there for me. I don't share a lot of criticisms that a lot of people have of this episode. I think most of the subplots of the rest of the characters are fine. The general with her heart palpitations and stuff. The sciencey bit, however, felt a bit like they were stopping the episode for it when they were talking about when the Doctor was talking about, what was it, the sciencey thing. I can't even remember what it was now. Some kind of drive or something. But anyway, she was clearly, the educational aspect of it didn't work on me. But she basically stopped the plot and had a little lecture, which I don't think worked. They could have weaved that in, and I think that's one of Chibnall's biggest problems in his writing, because I think he's got some brilliant skills in writings in other areas. He doesn't do exposition well. And although this wasn't really exposition, it was a science lesson, he didn't do that well either. He doesn't put in information into plots very well. It comes out quite clunky a lot of the time. I think that's probably his biggest weakness. And number 9, this is going to be a controversial one. This is going to be an unpopular Doctor Who opinion, I think. Kerblam.
Error reported. Error reported.
Hey, Charlie, don't make...
I can look at it.
Error reported. Error reported.
Yeah, it's at number 9. I think people seem to love this episode for some reason. A lot of people really liked this episode. I wasn't that fussed, because I spent most of the episode disliking it completely, in fact. It wasn't until, for me, it was a mediocre episode saved by the last 15 minutes. And the last 15 minutes were brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But the rest of the episode, while I don't judge it as harshly as when I first watched it, because when I first watched it, I think this is an episode that benefits from a second viewing, because there's lots of little things that are very cleverly weaved into the plot by the writer that hint at Charlie being the villain. But you only notice those really on the second watch. So on a second watch, it's definitely better than the first watch, but first watch, I was mostly bored and a little bit annoyed at some of the characters throughout most of the episode until that last 15 minutes. And it's at the moment when it switches, the twist is revealed and the girl dies. Forgotten her name now. The girl dies and Charlie reveals himself as the mastermind behind it all. And I think then it gets really good. But the rest of the episode didn't live up to that. And that is why it's at number 9. And number 8, we've got almost the reverse of number 9. We've got the Witchfinders.
Dr. Witch.
I was right.
Stop her now!
What happens in the Witchfinders is we have a quite good episode for most of it. I think the stuff about witches, when, all the what's her name? Madame Savage. Is that what her name is? Madame Savage? Yeah, I think that was her name. When she was dunking witches and all the witch trial stuff, that was really interesting. The Doctor being accused was really interesting. All of that was very interesting. Even the mud monsters, even though I kind of had hoped this would be a pure historical, it wasn't, that's fine. The mud monster zombie type mud monsters were fine. They added a bit of tension. Their scenes, while they were just being mindless sort of zombies without speaking, were fine. And good tension, and there was lots of good stuff in that first sort of 2/3 of the episode. And then the monsters started to speak and explained their ridiculous plan, and it all just was like, oh, it's turned from a quite interesting episode exploring quite interesting ideas to a generic alien invasion plot with bad CGI villains, and it just wasn't very interesting, and it ruined what they had got earlier on in the episode. So it has the opposite problem of Kerblam for me. It has a good first 2/3 and a bad third, while Kerblam had a bad first 2/3 and a good last third. So hey, it's slightly above Kerblam because it has 2/3 that are good as opposed to Kerblam's 1/3. At number 7, I put the Battle of Ranskoor The Battle of Ranskoor Kolos. That's it. Got there in the end.
And their right to worship me. I am unstoppable.
No one's unstoppable.
This was technically the series finale, but it totally did not feel like the series finale. It wasn't big enough, it wasn't epic enough. You had the returning villain from the start, which was the only thing about it that made it feel slightly season finale-esque, but overall, it just felt like an average episode, and, an okay episode, but not a season finale. I mean, it's called The Battle of Ranskoor Kolos, and we don't see a battle. That in itself is a massive, massive mark against it. Yet they reference the battle. I know it refers to a battle that's already happened. The Doctor, has a line about, oh, looks like there's been a battle here. If the title is The Battle of Ranskoor Kolos, I don't want it to be about a battle that had happened off screen. I want to see the battle, and a battle would have been epic. Imagine that, if they'd had to go against Tim Shaw and some kind of army or something like that, gather together some other people that they come across along the way and have an actual battle. That would have been so much more interesting. But no. It was an okay episode. It's fine as an episode, but it was not a season finale. Number 6, It Takes You Away.
It takes you away. It takes you away. It takes you away.
Well, the frog. Some people like the frog. I didn't like the frog. I thought the frog was stupid. I thought the frog was a missed opportunity. I think this whole episode had a lot of missed opportunities, and that is why it didn't get higher, because actually, I think some of the writing in it is really good, and there are some really powerful moments in it. Grace coming back, and Graham, having that conversation with her, that was all very powerful stuff. And there were some brilliant performances as well from Bradley Walsh and from, I've forgotten her name now, but the girl that played Hannah, the blind girl, the blind actress playing the blind part. She was fantastic, and so there was some really strong acting in it, but there were just too many missed opportunities, I think. The stuff at the beginning was really interesting. It takes you away, like the horror vibe that you had at the beginning was really interesting. And then I really liked the concept and the idea of this sentient universe aspect. That was really good. I liked that. And I liked the way that it was trying to draw people into it by playing on their memories and lost loved ones. But the in-between? No, not the in-between. What did they call it? Can't remember what they called the little world in between the two worlds. Was it the in-between? It's not the upside down, that's Stranger Things, but it did very much remind me of that. Whatever that was called, I think that was a massive missed opportunity. You had Kevin Eldon, is that his name? Playing the character in there. I think he did a great job with the character, but the character seemed a bit pointless. We didn't get enough of him. I think we could have had a lot more. And that whole area felt very missed opportunity-esque. And I think they had planned more. There are set photos of another creature on that set. So clearly they had too much footage in there and not enough time to fit it all in. Maybe if they'd kept that stuff, it would have perhaps felt more like it was worthwhile doing it in the first place. The moths as well. I thought the moths were terrible looking. I mean, the concept of them is fine, but they looked like a classic series monster. They looked like something from the Web Planet. But there we go. I think this could have done with being a two-parter, actually. They could have done the whole first episode being the whole thinking it's a monster coming to get them in the cabin. That could have been the whole first episode. And then the in-between area, the portal to the in-between area could have been the cliffhanger. And that would have been really good. I think that would have been... This is definitely a missed opportunity for a two-parter. It's a missed opportunity for using the in-between area a bit better. Missed opportunity for using Kevin Eldon. And the frog. Why was it a frog? I did not like that. I mean, I get why how they explained why it was frog. But why was it a frog? No, everyone else that universe had appeared to as someone important to them. That was such an opportunity. We could have either had somebody like Susan, somebody we knew of, come back, which would have been amazing. Or we could have even just had someone relevant to the Doctor, but that we didn't know. And that is probably even the more interesting opportunity. You know, she mentions early on in there, one of her grandparents, her grandma number 5, 9, something like that. Why not her? That could have been the easy option out. Or even somebody that hints at another bit of a mystery. Maybe another bit of the Timeless Child mystery. So we don't know who they are, but we get another little tiny nugget of that. So this whole episode, missed opportunities. But there's good stuff in there, which is why it's kind of in the middle of the rankings. At number 5, I put the Ghost Monument.
We see deeper though, further back, the Timeless Child.
What did you just say?
She doesn't know.
What are you talking about? What can you see?
We see what's hidden, even from yourself. The outcast, abandoned and unknown.
Yeah, I don't really have that much to say about this. It was a good first adventure for them, off-world. Encountered several obstacles. Yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed it. I think the tension was kept up. Yeah, people complained about the walk, you know, it being like, oh yeah, they're walking from place to place. But, you know, they encountered obstacles along the way. I don't think there needed to be a overarching big villain they had to face during that. Just having the various obstacles felt enough for me. The robots, maybe they weren't the best, you know, as robots and, like, just generic bad guys do in these things. They're terrible shots. But they were right. Didn't mind them. They were fine, I guess. So yeah, this episode was sort of middle of the ranking for me, which is probably why I don't have much to say about it. There's nothing particularly massively that bugged me, but equally there's nothing that I went, yes, that is amazing, brilliant. There were some good performances, and it was nice to see the Ryan and Graham stuff start to develop. Yeah. Number 4, The Woman Who Fell to Earth. Which I thought was a brilliant introduction to our new Doctor. There was so much I loved about it. Her entrance, crashing through that train. I love the way they set up the companions. Yeah, there was they felt like real people with real stuff they were going through. Even Yaz, at this point, felt like a character at this point that we were going to find out so much about. That was never realised. But there was so much good stuff here. I thought Jodie really burst onto the screen in this episode. Possibly a bit more than she did in the next couple of episodes. She felt like she had more of a presence in this episode than she did certainly in the Ghost Monument. Rosa, I think, she had quite a presence in, but this episode, she really felt like, I mean, she wasn't fully formed, but that was part of the niceness of it. I think she was kind of finding herself throughout the episode. And that moment when the Doctor's theme comes in and she's confronting Tim Shaw, Simshar, or whatever it is, that was really good and a really like punch the air moment, I think. And yeah, Tim Shaw was a good villain, I think. I have issues with him in the season finale, but not so much in this one. I think he was fine. I think he was a good villain that I actually kind of hope will come back, just to sort of do him a bit more justice. But yeah, a good start to Series 11 this was. And number 3, I'm putting the New Year's Day special, our most recent episode.
You are my prisoner now. You are my puppet.
I was skeptical about the Daleks returning in this, but it paid off really well. This was a fantastic Dalek story. Possibly, I think, the best Dalek story we've had since Series 1. And I loved it. I loved the whole first sort of act of it while the Dalek was out of its casing, and, you know, the body horror aspect to it. It was all very creepy, and it was very original. I don't think, you know, there's not been a Dalek story like that before, and I loved it. I loved what they did with the Dalek to make it a bit different, and I love the fact that it was just one lone Dalek, but they didn't just do the same story that they did with Dalek in Series 1. It was different, and there was other aspects to it, and I really liked that. So that was all very good. I thought the Doctor was probably the best she's been this series, in terms of she felt the most Doctor-like. She felt, because I've liked her throughout, but there still hasn't been, and this is something I've said repeatedly in my reviews, that there hasn't really been a punch the air, wow, that's the Doctor moment. And that's okay, because we haven't had that from other Doctors till their second, or sometimes even their third series. So that doesn't massively, it doesn't massively worry me about the future, but it would have been nice to have. And although we still didn't really get that this episode, she came the closest to it, I think. She was just kind of slightly more electrifying this episode, I think. And once the Dalek had been assembled its new armour, the action really was on point there, and it was sort of mostly go, 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 and very exciting stuff, very tense stuff, the army facing off against it. One Dalek can cause a lot of destruction, and this episode really showed that, so that was really good. And I'm not a massive fan of the Dalek design, but it kind of works in this episode, but I wouldn't want to see it again. I didn't mind which I know some people have complained about, the Ryan and his dad scenes. I actually really liked those. I can see what people mean about them, possibly the bits in the cafe, going on maybe a little bit too long. Maybe they should have cut back to the action a bit more frequently and gone a bit more between the two, rather than having a long cafe scene and then a long action scene. Maybe that would have worked better. I don't know. But overall, one thing about this series I really liked is the emotional aspect to it. The characters feeling like real people, having, you know, real emotional reactions to things. And this fits in with that perfectly. And I really liked that. It seemed the perfect culmination of Ryan's arc, and it also played into the actual larger plot later on as well. So that was all good too. This was a very solid Dalek episode, and a very solid episode for the series. But it's not the best episode of the series. For me, those are definitely the historicals. Except the Witchfinders, that went a bit lower. But the other two historicals. I think the historicals are one of the strongest points of this series. I really wanted them to do a pure historical. They didn't, but they came quite close to it several times. So, which one do I prefer? In my number 2 spot is the Demons of Punjab.
Partition. We're in the middle of the partition of India.
It was close. I struggled between which to put first. But Demons of Punjab, great episode. Brilliant themes to explore, and explored really well. I love the fact that the aliens had nothing to do with the death and what was going on. They were just there to observe. I love that. In fact, the one criticism of this episode, I have a couple, of minor niggles, but the one big one is that I don't think they needed to be there at all. I think this could have been a pure historical and been even more interesting from it. We would have lost the great scene at the end where all the Prem's face floats up to join all the other faces that they've observed dying, but which would have been sad to lose. Admittedly, it was a great scene, but I don't know. It just feels like it should have been a pure historical, and that they maybe just didn't have the guts to do it. Maybe they wanted to, and they didn't think that the public would accept a pure historical. Maybe they're right. I don't know, but I would have loved to have seen it. Brilliant episode, but not the best. The best episode for the series for me was definitely Rosa.
We're very grateful, Miss.
Mrs. Parks, Rosa Parks.
No way.
You're kidding.
Brilliant.
This episode had heart. It had really interesting. It was educational because a lot of this stuff I didn't know. I only had a rough idea who Rosa Parks was before this episode. And I love the fact that they managed to weave in all of the history. And in this episode, it doesn't feel massively expositional. And I put that probably down to Mallory Blackman because, as we've established, Chris Chibnall isn't the best at writing exposition. But here, other than the scene at the end where they're talking about the asteroid, and that's a bit more like, hey, let me give you a history lesson type moment, the rest is all weaved in quite naturally with the characters, and it kind of feels like stuff that, you know, a conversation that would actually happen. So, really loved that. Really loved and I can't remember her name now, but the actress that played Rosa, she did a fantastic job. I thought it was a really great emotional episode, really tugged at the heartstrings, and I thought it was an interesting idea for a plot. I didn't mind at all that Krasko didn't get that much screen time and wasn't developed that much. I don't think he needed to be. I think if they'd spent time developing him, it would have taken something away from the episode. So, Rosa is my number one episode from Series 11, and my favourite historical. Well, I need to go rewatch some, but it was a fantastic episode. More like it, please, for Series 12. Anyway, that's my ranking. You might completely disagree with it. You might hate Rosa, it might be on the bottom of your list. You might absolutely love Arachnids in the UK, although I don't think I've seen anybody that loves Arachnids in the UK, so probably not. I don't think I've seen a single review that loves that episode. So, yeah, you probably don't love that one. But, you know, if I put another one of your episodes very low down, Kerblam, hey, nothing wrong with having different opinions. We like different things. It's all good. But let me know which order you'd put them in. Which episode is your favourite? Which episode is your least favourite? Put the whole list if you so wish. Let me know all that in the comments below. And yeah, don't forget to do all the stuff. Like, share, subscribe, all that jazz. And I'll be back for another Doctor Who video in 2 weeks' time and something else next week. If you don't know why it's like that, then watch my New Year's resolutions video. Because I explain my scheduling plan a little bit in that. Yeah, thanks for watching. Goodbye. See you then.